Alright, so now that you've watched the video on how to do the chains and the slip stitch, you're going to be able to start to do any other type of stitch. So this one is just a basic single crochet, which is the easiest stitch you can do, which obviously start the same way with your slip knot. And for this example, I'm going to chain 14, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so you've got your chain, and this number can vary. It just depends on what you're making. This is just an example, and random number. So, there's different methods of doing a single crochet. I prefer to go through both loops, which, if you can see on any of the little V's here, there's both legs to go through. Some people go through just the back, some go through just the front, but I prefer to go through both. I should also mention that there is a difference between American crocheting and UK crocheting and their terms. While we in the US, we mention a single crochet, in England, the same stitch is referred to as a double crochet. It's an entirely different name, although we use the same terms and they mean different things. So if you're working from a pattern, make sure you know whether they mean the US or the UK versions of the terms. But anyway, so single crochet. You go into the second stitch from the hook, which you don't count the one that's on the hook. This baffled me for a while when I was first learning. You go 1, 2 into this stitch right here. Can you see that, hopefully? Okay, so the first row is the hardest, but you go in and go through both the front and the back loops. See that there? I think. Okay. So, you're going to go under your working yarn, catch it on the hook, pull it through that stitch that you just got. Now there's going to be 2 loops on your hook, and now you just pull through both of them. And you just do that across into the next stitch. Through both loops. I promise it gets easier once you get past the very first row. The first row is tricky, but go through the loops. Next stitch. Go in under both. Oops. It's a little slippery, but okay. Go in through both loops. You can help it along with your fingers, it's fine. This is also when you go under the yarn and catch it on the hook, that's called a yarn over, so you pull it through, that's a yarn over, so just do that. In knitting it means something entirely different, but for crocheting that is what it means. Don't let that confuse you. Go through both, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. It's a little bit slow going, but I will show you when we get to the end of the row, both what you do and how much faster the second and every other row after that is from the first one. It's just that foundation row is tricky, I will admit. I always kind of am cringing a little bit at having to do the first row because it just takes a while to do, but once you figure out what you're doing, it's not so bad. And also I'm going slower than I normally would just because I'm showing you for the sake of this video, and there's that to take in mind too. Come through about half of it now. I would suggest counting your stitches to make sure you don't lose any. Because you do skip that very first stitch, you'll have one less at the end of the row than you made a chain for. But when I show you what you do at the end of the row, this is what makes up for that one that you skip and makes it all okay. Also be careful not to twist your stitches. And almost at the end here. Couple to go. Second to last one. Also be careful not to split your yarn while you're doing this. That's a common mistake, and sometimes I do it too, but you'll learn where one piece of, or one part of your stitch stops and the next stitch starts, and not to break the thread. Okay, last stitch. Okay, you've gotten to the end of your row. All looks good, but you're left with one fewer than you, not cast on, but that you chained on. So you're going to chain one, because this is just a single crochet. With different stitches, you do different numbers here, and you skip different numbers in the next row, but for single crochet, you just chain one, turn your work, and remember to skip the first stitch, go into the second stitch from the needle, and then just begin your single crochet. See how much more easy that works on the second row from the first? It goes so much faster and easier. And this is basically the most common stitch that you're going to run into throughout most crochet patterns. So it's good to be acquainted with it, and it takes a little bit of getting used to while you're still a beginner to get the tension correct, but just do a bunch of example swatches while you're learning and you'll figure out what your tension is, how to get it just right. You don't want to pull too hard, but you also don't want it to be too loose either. So there's a little balance that you catch there, but it's not so bad. See, I'm already almost at the end of the second row. And you can go on for as many rows as you want to, or for however many that your pattern calls for. If you're working from a pattern, you can even just do this example here and do it for a long length and make a scarf out of it if you want to. It really doesn't matter. It's just good for learning. Okay, end of the row. Do our chain one. Turn it around. On the next row, skip the first stitch into the second one. And you just keep on going. Just like that. And you just keep doing that. And what this will bring you is a stitch that will look like this. And it's very versatile, and it's a little bit stretchy, and you can do a lot with even just that single crochet. So that's that one, and there you go.